And joining us today in our book talk segment, great to welcome someone who's written a book that's going to help a lot of people, I'm sure. It's called Parenting with a Story, Real-Life Lessons and Character for Parents and Children to Share. We're joined today by Paul Smith from up in Ohio this afternoon. And Paul, thanks for joining us. How are you today?
I'm just fine. Thanks for having me, Doug.
Yeah, good to have a chance to chat with you for a couple of minutes. Had an opportunity to go through the book a little bit, and I guess parenting is one of those things that there really aren't many textbooks to go by, so you're at least providing that service.
Well, I hope so. I mean, I guess, like they say, kids aren't born with instruction manuals, but there's a lot of books actually written on helping folks parent. I think this one is a little different in that it's not a book of advice for people to how to parent. It's not like what to expect when you're expecting or how to discipline your kids or anything. It's really a book on character development. So it's for parents or grandparents or aunts and uncles or anybody really that's important in the life of a child, to give them a whole set of stories to help them teach character traits to the kids.
Yeah, that's what I meant. There are books, obviously, of the physical raising of children, but teaching them right from wrong and that kind of thing. And how to develop character, that's something that, unfortunately, from what I've heard, the school system doesn't do as good a job as they either used to or should do.
Right, right. That's what I'm trying to fix.
Why do you think that is? I remember I'm not that far gone from elementary school, but we had some curriculum that at least taught you right from wrong occasionally, and I was one of those people that went to Sunday school as well. That, of course, that's different than the regular school, but it seems like everything's kind of gotten away from that. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. I suspect it's because there's a lot of people are trying to be sensitive to all kinds of different cultures and religions and values and things like that, and so we've left character development to parents to do at home, or as you said, in Sunday school. And I'm not even convinced that's wrong. It's hard to teach a specific set of character traits that everybody 100% will sign on to, but I will tell you that I was surprised in doing the research for this book. I ended up interviewing probably 100 people from around the world in 20 different countries and all kinds of walks of life, and I was looking for what are those moments of clarity in their life where they learned a really important life lesson, and then tried to figure out what character trait did that lesson teach them. And I was just shocked that they were all of these 800, 900 stories I collected from all these people all fit into the same 20 or 23, I guess, character traits that I think just about everybody would sign on for. I mean, it's things like ambition and open-mindedness and creativity and courage and integrity and hard work and self-reliance, things like that. And those are all things about how we are as humans, but how we treat other people is another set of character traits, and they fit into these too. So kindness and patience and fairness and humility, respect for others. So no matter where these people were in the world, the stories all seem to fit into one of those 20 different character traits.
Well, when you decided to do this book, well, first of all, what was there an impetus, any particular thing that said, well, I'm going to write a book about this?
Yeah, well, as a parent myself, it's clearly the book that I wish I'd had 14 years ago when our first kid was born, but unfortunately it's not too late to use them. But the idea really came to me while I was writing my first book, which is Lead with a Story. So it's it's 100 different leadership lessons for people to use at work, and I had just so many people tell me, gosh, some of these stories I could really use at home, and it hadn't dawned on me until that point that leading a team of people at work is an awful lot like leading a family at home. I mean, you're trying to get either the people that work for you or your kids to learn and develop and grow and mature and succeed and all that kind of stuff, and teach them lessons. And so a similar treatment I thought would be helpful, and so that led me to go interview a whole different set of people to collect these life lesson stories.
Hey, how did you go about, I know you said you interviewed over 100, 200 people to get these stories. How do you start to do that? Do you put an ad out somewhere, or how do you find these people?
I didn't do any ads. You'd be surprised when you're in your late 40s like me. You've met a lot of people in life, I suppose, and so I obviously started with people that I know, but then people that they know, and pretty soon you're getting recommended, oh, well, if you really want a great story about that, you should talk to this person. And so it ended up really kind of being an organic thing like that. You'd be surprised how quickly somebody will interview with you if you tell them, hey, I'm under contract to write a book, and it's going to be published in so many months, and I'd love to interview you for it. I think it's just our own human ego, compels us to say yes to an offer like that, I think.
Would you record the people? Just kind of ask them different things, or did you have specific questions, or how did you go about that?
Yeah, so yes to both of those things. So I had very specific questions, and yes, I did record them so that just I can't type as fast as they can write, so I needed to be able to capture everything that they said. But I learned very quickly that some questions work in eliciting these type of stories, and some don't. I started just asking people, tell me your best stories, and that went nowhere fast. What I learned was that the kind of questions that really get people to think of great stories in their life are questions like, tell me about a time in your life when you learned a completely unexpected lesson. Or what's the biggest mistake you've ever made, or the smartest decisions you've ever made, or describe a vivid memory you have as a child where you felt terrible about how you made somebody else feel. Those kind of questions make people think of a specific moment in life where something really good or really bad happened to them, and then they can think about why did that good or bad thing happen, and that's where a great story is often born.
Any surprises? I know you had all these topics. You mentioned ambition, self-reliance, hard work, struggles in life. Did it kind of go a different direction maybe than you thought originally, these interviews?
Actually, I laugh because the biggest surprise I had during this was I ended up interviewing one of my high school teachers. So this is, from 30 years ago. And we were talking about dealing with loss. So when people die and how do you grieve and deal with loss and things like that. And he had taught for 40 years, and so he had lots of students under him who lost parents or siblings or whatever during the time they were in his class, and he even lost some students to car wrecks. And so he was telling me about one of the most poignant ones to him was one where there was a boy in his class whose mother died somewhere in the middle of the senior year, and he said, I never approached him and offered any condolences or asked him if he needed any help or offered my shoulder to cry on. And this was one of my best students, and and for some reason I just got too busy and never did it, and it's haunted me since then. And as he's telling me about this, he's getting all emotional and starting to weep, and it's obviously a very cathartic moment for him. And it occurred to me about in the middle of him telling me the story that the kid that he's talking about was me.
Wow.
My mom, and now he knew that. He hadn't forgotten who it was, but he didn't tell me he was talking about me. And so I was quite surprised in it, and of course I had to, put his mind at ease and say, look, I have no recollection of you not being there or being felt slighted by you in any way. In fact, you were one of my favorite teachers. That's why I called you to interview with you. But yeah, that certainly took me by surprise, and I think that's one of the stories that didn't make it into the book, but that was my biggest surprise, I think, during the process, for sure.
That's a great story, 30 years later.
Yeah.
What do you hope to have people get out of this book? Obviously, you want the parents to read it, but I guess teenagers could read it too, right? I mean, is that part of the plan?
Yeah, the main idea would be for the parents to read it. So it's not a children's book, and the idea would not be for them to just sit down and read these stories to their kids like they would a fairy tale or something, because I wanted these stories to be applicable to a wide range of children's ages. And so the best way to do that is to just tell the story to parents in very adult language, and then let the parents, when they choose to share a story with their kid, for them to decide, what language do I use, and do I use big words or small words, or, if it's a 4-year-old kid, I'm going to tell it very differently than if it's a 14-year-old, and, I'm going to leave out a part of the story that's about a more adult topic, and, so I counsel the parents you read the story to yourself, and then you go tell that story to your kids in whatever way you would normally tell a story to a kid of that age, and that way I know that it will be told appropriately.
Yeah, right. I know with the previous book, Lead with a Story, I'm sure you got a lot of feedback on it from people that read it and got something from it. So I'm sure this is the same type of book. You hope to get some feedback from parents, right?
Yeah, I would love to. I mean, it's a little early for that. It just came out yesterday, so right. I'm still early. But I'd love to know which of these stories are resonating with people. Like I said, there's 101 short stories in the book, all true stories of something that happened to somebody. And yeah, I'd love to know which ones are the most effective and which ones are working and that kind of thing.
Name of the book is Parenting with a Story, Real-Life Lessons and Character for Parents and Children to Share. We've been talking with Paul Smith today, and published by the AMA, right, American Management Association. Is that right?
That's right.
And you have a website you want to direct people to? Either get a hold of you or the book?
Yes, thank you. It's leadwithastory.com. So that's the name of my first book, and I'm just going to stick with that on the website.
Great, and you're on Twitter as well at Lead with a Story. So it's a whole new world out there. People get a hold of you.
Fabulous. Yes, that's right. Thank you.
Paul, pleasure to talk to you. Thanks for joining us today. Good luck with the book, and hopefully we can talk to you again sometime.